Yeah, we were talking earlier. I like fishing. So whether it's on a river, grayling trout, salmon, sea trout, I small stillwater, big stillwater, off a boat or off a bank, I'm fishing. So I'm happy, you know.
One of the most successful sea trout fishes in
Yeah. My my wife will tell you, yeah, he must be because he's never at home. That's so. Yeah, I as the story goes, sea trouting when I could only go on the odd occasion, but then when the children came along, my wife stayed at home, so she'd be up early with the kids, so I'd be able to have a lie in. I'd go to work, come home, sort the kids out, put them to bed. The wife would say, I'm off to bed early. And I'd go, I think I'll go sea trout fishing. So I could go sea trout fishing because they were all asleep at home. And if I came in 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, knowing full well I didn't have to get up with the kids. And that's how it worked. It was just...
You always fish at night for them?
Yeah, except when there's a bit of water on. And then I sometimes change tactics. So for those of you that salmon fish, there's a style of fishing called skagit now. So I generally fish a big fly, and I call them noisy flies, because in water where you can't really see your feet when the water's pushing through, you know, everybody thinks a fish will react because of what it sees, but they've got a lateral line. And if you fish a noisy fly and you pull that through the water, those fish know there's something in the water even before it's appeared. So using skagit technique, it allows me to fish big flies, put it upstream, big downstream mend, and then strip the fly in, and usually as it comes down, fish are facing that way, so the fly will come past them, and either I'll get a take as the fish turns, or as the fly comes round and then swings back upstream. If they followed it round, as it turns upstream, I'll get another chance there as well. So, and as the water finds down then, I change to small doubles, and there's a kind of, I like to draw an analogy. If anybody spun with a flying condom, flying sea,
Yes.
with a ball bearing swivel, right? Well, many a time I've thrown a ball bearing swivel or flying sea into a little pool. It's gone, sunk down. I've wound in, and I can see the spinner coming, and then out of the blue, a small sea trout will come and attack the swivel, and I've never known why. Right? So I tied these small doubles to represent that swivel. So same technique, straight across, little downstream mend, and then strip, strip, strip. The faster the current, the slower I strip. The slower the current, the faster I strip. It's in that fish's eye line, and it's got one opportunity. He goes, what's that? A friend asked me, well, why does the fish take? And I threw my car keys at him, and he went, I said, why did you catch them? He said, because they were there. And I think that's something to do with why the fish takes, because it's a reaction, or whether it's instinctive or conditioned, I don't know. But it's a reaction. They see something, they grab it. I also relate it perhaps to a cat. Now, salmon and sea trout are very like cats. One, they're predators. Two, doesn't matter what you do to them, you can throw all the flies at them you want. A pet cat will sit on the floor and look at you and, as if to say, really? So if I got a ball of wool and pulled some off and tied it off, and I threw a ball of wool at the cat would go and then lose interest. The moment I start pulling that ball of wool, the cat has it. And that, you know, with sea trout, let's say they don't feed, you've got to create a reaction. You've got to get that fish to do something that it might not ordinarily do. And pulling those flies, something that makes the reaction happen. Not always, but you know, it's happened a sufficient number of times to make me think it's worthwhile doing.
Oh, because it's funny, isn't it? Because when you fish in a river, you'll cast a fly down across.
Yeah.
You'll get nothing, but then you slipping it back into cast again. The fish will take it.
Yep.
And it always makes me wonder why, because it's not acting naturally at all. That fly,
No, that's right.
No.
Something that small, travelling that fast,
Yeah.
you think, what the... But I think because it comes into the fish's vision.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to get that before it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that comes down to grayling fishing with bugs. And if you want me to come back up, I'll come back up and do something. With beadhead nymphs and what have you. Those fish are sat in pockets of water where they don't have to expend any energy. And either side of them there's a current. So when you put your nymphs in, those nymphs are trundling down. They've got one opportunity. Is it food or isn't it? And if they don't go for the food, the opportunities pass them by, you know. And I like to describe it as they can't go down to McDonald's. Oh yeah, that nymph, don't worry, I'll nip down to McDonald's or the chippy later. They can't do that. Fish haven't got hands, so the only way they've got of really finding out whether that thing that's moving and whatever is food is by taking it in their mouth. So when we do this and the nymphs go past, they take it in their mouth, our line darts forward, we go, and usually they're hooked, right? So that's it. But did you have if you've got any questions, ask away, right? So going back to what I was talking about, this is the hook gauge for international rules. All these flies can be fished on small still waters regardless. And this is the overall size, hook plus tail. Okay, so the dressing can't be any larger than that, and the hook can't be any larger than that. All right, and you can get away with it many ways. So, I mean, pity about the booby and the indicator, but such is life. So I've come prepared, and this is for the raffle, if you still do raffles, John.
We don't, but we'll find a way of...
Yeah, well, even if you put names in a hat and pull one out.
Yeah.
I think the last time I came, I gave you a box of dubbing, and the time before that was a jungle cocktail.
Yeah.
So, none of the hooks I'm tying on tonight are barbless, okay? Because I've got such a stock of barbed hooks that I'll use them, but I'll use a flat nose pliers where these aren't allowed, or barbless only, or flatten the barb, and over time I guess I guess they'll all be barbless really. But so, love them or hate them, the first fly I'm going to tie tonight is an orange blob. Okay, anybody fish blobs?
Yeah.
Right.
That's my principle when I do fishing.
But they catch fish. I mean, we all go. We all go fishing to catch fish, and we've got to use something that does catch fish, you know. And to a certain extent.
The funny thing is, sometimes I'll catch when nothing else, when I touch nothing else.
That's right.
That's what.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things that, yeah, it just happens. So people say, well, they make all these rules up. Oh yeah, it's you know, I'm sure you've heard of egg-laying blobs, and but it doesn't represent anything. So how can you have an egg-laying blob? Sorry, let me get stuff sorted here. So they're all very simple flies, they're all quick to tie. If you lose one, it's not going to be the end of the world, because you can tie one up quickly again. They all catch fish. These are flies that I use throughout the season, especially on Clywedog. I'm also going to chat to you about the development of flies and how people sometimes complicate things when they don't need complicating, and they add this to it and then this to it and then this to it and then this to it, and all of a sudden what was once a simple effective fly becomes really complicated. So so the first fly, orange blob, right? What I've got in the vise, it's a heavy wire hook, and it's a Kamasan B830. So it's got the same shank as a size 10, but the gape is actually a size 8. Okay, and we know that because if I get my gauge, you can see that with my gauge the hook fits in. So simple matter of tying on. Okay, and people complicate these endlessly. Right, all I do is take that down more or less to the barb, snip off, and then we get some, I like to put flash in mine. Other people put marabou, they put blobtail as it's called, they put lots of things in, but I like a little bit of flash in mine. So all I'm going to do is take 6 or 7 fibres, and if it's not natural, why does it need a tail? So, thought for the day. Just give it a little wet with the saliva, and we can use the weight of the bobbin to set that in. Okay, and we can pull it back just a little bit more and then continue down. Okay, I'm not too worried about the body being particularly flat just yet, and if I snip off the full length, that'll sort it out now. This is going to be used again. So here we are. Right, so if I get my gauge again, you'll see currently that's slightly too long. So just snip those off. And eventually over time, as you tie more flies, you get to understand the proportions that, yep, that's the size I want to fish. Now, as the season goes on, these bright colours tend not to work. You get more chases and more plucks. So then you need to go into the softer colours. So if at the start of the season, let me tie this and explain. So I've got this blob fritz, this is orange translucent, and all I've done is I've pulled some of the fibres off from the core, and I'll just tie the core on. Okay, just capture that there. Right, pull it all back, and then just wind on down. Okay, so I'm going to wet my fingers here now. As I wrap, this is a bit like palmer in a hackle. Everybody knows how to palmer a hackle? Yeah. So I don't want it too tight, because if I get it too tight, the fibres will start to fold forward. And what I'm trying to do is push all the fibres back, so I'll leave a slight gap, and then another slight gap. Wet your fingers, or you can soak the fritz as much as you want, and tie it in wet, some people do. So there's 3 turns, and it's important you count the turns, because on the next fly you'll understand. So there's 3, pulling forward, 4, pulling forward, 5, and I'll pull it slightly forward and I'll just tie it off at 6. Okay. Now, as I'm holding there, I don't know whether you can see it, I'm just trying to work that thread right up to the eye. And then take a couple of turns just to lock him in. Being careful with my scissors not to snip the tie-in thread, which often happens. Wrap those back. I won't varnish these because I've forgotten the varnish as well. So, right, but a quick whip finish then. And there is.
See what I've tended to do, or always, when I've been tying these, is about 1.5 turns and I'll put a bit of a whipping round, then I'll do another and push them back.
Yeah.
That seems to work, but obviously that looks better.
Well, and when it's been wet, like some people soak this in warm water.
Yeah.
Then they squeeze it out, and as they're doing it, it makes it set. Now there's nothing saying here that if I've got a few flyaway fibres, I can't shape it like muddlers.
No.
Right? You know, there's nothing stopping me doing that. And the fact of the matter is that it's your fly, you do with it what you want really. It's only other anglers and the fly police that will say to you,
Yeah, that's right.
That's wrong. And you're like, well, I'm catching fish, so how wrong can it be?
Would you fish that on its own?
Yep. Yeah. So, and I'll come on to when we're fishing it. I was fishing at, there's 2 lakes, one across the road from the other, near Lechlade. Right, what's the other one?
Bushy Lees.
Bushy Lees. So, I was fishing at Bushy Lees, that's the larger one with the smaller fish, isn't it? Bushy Lees, yeah. And a guy said to me, he said, what are you catching on? I said, oh, orange blob. And he said, well, I've been fishing orange blob and I'm not catching fish like you. I said, well, come and stand here. Nothing. He try cast out. Oh, here we go. Single orange blob. And he went, give me a look at that fly. So he showed me his orange blob. And I went, that's not an orange blob. This is an orange blob. And he was like, ah! Right? So it was burn your retinas. There are different levels of colour you can get. So anyway, that's a simple blob. Okay? So, and I'll come on early season fishing now. Just put that one there. So the next one is a 2-tone blob. Okay? So once again, just tie in. Like I say, I always go down to the barb. It's just something I do. Take my fibres. I won't cut them this time. I'll try to gauge them. As long as that's secure, just give them a snip. Cut it the full length. So one of the favourite concoctions is the tequila. Now some people like it the real dark green. I prefer this fluoro green, and as you can see, this material is from a company called F&F. I've got no association with them. It's just, if I pass this one round, you can see how it's done. This has got fibres all around it. Okay, so that's got fibres all around it, and it's quite dense, the oranges, whereas that isn't. Now, if you compare the orange and the green, you'll see.
I've come across some of these cheaper
Yeah.
ones, which you just pull apart.
Yeah,
Absolute rubbish, isn't it?
yeah. So there's some, like this one has a little bit of give in it. Okay, so then you can wrap it tighter. But so I'll wait for those to come back round, and then I'll show you. So the importance was of counting was for this particular reason. So if you want equal parts, then I think I put 7 turns in, didn't I? 6 turns. Yeah. So I know now if I put 3 and 3, I should get a full blob. Right? But that one is slightly thinner, so I might do 4 and 2, or 4 and 3 if I can get away with it.
I should have warned you, we might have musical accompaniment. It's okay.
Oh no, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you want to join in.
We're just lucky we haven't got the bell ringers in today.
You've got the dances in, clog dances.
So you can get a variety of materials, and what I'd suggest is when you find materials that you can tie with, then stick with them. Because there are some materials, I bought capes, they're supposed to be top quality capes. It doesn't matter what I do with them, I can't hackle a fly. They just don't work for me. And there are other manufacturers, I think, well, just, how did that happen? It's so easy to tie with. So it is what it is anyway. But you can see from the difference, this is twice the volume of that, I guess. So once again, just pull out some of the fibres from the core. Try to tie in. So I'll only go about halfway up the hook shank, okay, and then with my fingers, and what I'm actually doing is pulling the fibres backwards, so that, like when we palmer a fly, those fibres are facing backwards. So I think I can go 4 with this. Maybe even, there we go, let's have a look. I'll go 1 more. Just because of the volume. So out of the two, I suggest that this one is the more effective. Why it's more effective, I don't know. Whether the colour combination, certainly the fish seem to think that it's slightly different. But early season, 2 of these on your line, pull back at the vast rate of knots, you'll probably have double hookups. So,
you use your floating line mainly?
no, sinking line mainly.
Sinking line.
Right, now we'll come onto a floating line, because one of the other ones I was going to tie was, it was going to be a fab, so a 4-mast blob. Right, and the 4-mast blob came about to fish those fisheries where a booby was banned.
Did you actually want
Okay, so it's a floating fly, but it's not a booby. So they got away with it. Okay. Just let me take another one now.
Is it a slow sink rate or a fast sink rate?
Anything from a slow intermediate down to a type 7. So my tying thread's just snapped there. We'll get over that now. Take too long to rethread. Anybody use these ceramic bobbin holders?
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them you get, and they're great. The more you use them, the more polished they become. But I've had a couple recently off vineyards that doesn't matter what I do, they just cut my thread constantly. And I think this is one of them.
Renzetti.
Renzetti, you use, John, do you? There you go. Excuse me.
Vineyards seem to be going downhill, downhill quality.
So there's 2. So 1 is to set it, 2 is to make sure if I bump my bobbin holder, then the material's not likely to come out. Just do him there. Okay. And after they've swum in the water once, you will see that they'll come into the shape that you actually see in the shops or on Facebook or whatever. So that is the tequila blob. Okay. Now, if we put foam in the back end and tie the body over it, it becomes a fab. If we put 2 eyes on the front, it becomes a booby. Right?
Yeah.
But as a combination early season, if you're in a place where you can fish 2 flies, if you put one of those on the point and one of those on the dropper, doesn't matter where they are, as long as a fair distance between them, you will have double hookups. Cast it out, sinking line, strip it back, figure of 8 it back, fish will come out of nowhere and you'll catch. Okay, freshly stocked fish, those of them, high summer, bright sunlight, deep, those will take them. So there's 2 flies that you can use in combination, right? Anytime, any place, and use them singly. Out of the 2, I try that one first if it's a single fly, but I wouldn't go past the orange if there's freshly stocked fish. Now, as I said, the colour combinations are great for fresh fish, but as the season goes on and they've seen these, and Clywedog's a classic case in point where hardly anybody takes the fish now, they catch them and release them, catch them and release them. Those fish then start to, oh, I had a pull, I had a pull, I had a pull. They know that those colours bite back, right? So what you need to do if you get intakes, instead of orange, sunburst.
I've caught on black. Yeah.
There you go.
That's a
But one of the things, and small still waters, anybody fish garn fruit? No, garn fruit is...
I have done a long time ago.
Yeah, garn fruit is a classic case in point. He's got 30 anglers there on a daily basis. They all practice catching these. What are you catching on? What are you catching on? Everybody fishes those, and all of a sudden everybody stops catching. The first person to change to a different fly is usually the first person that catches. Because all those fish know that those flies bite back. So it's well worth just changing the colour, changing, and you can get some biscuit, you can, so many combinations, but the mainstay in my box are those two colours with the sunburst. Now, as summer goes along as well as the colours, you'll find big flies, you'll get fish following, and you'll see the fish following, and the more you do this, they'll come and then turn away. If you tie them on the size 12, then they're great, because it's not as big as the size 10. So those are the ones I'd tie. Okay, so the next one I was going to tie was going to be a fab, and in particular the fab is part of what you call the washing line setup, and so is the booby. Okay, so you have a floating line or a sink tip or a slow intermediate, and the point fly is going to be floating, and the next part is your line. So strung between your line and the point fly are going to be several nymphs. Okay, so next on the cards, as you might have imagined, are going to be buzzers. Okay, so we've got a guy by the name of Dr. Bell. Anybody heard of him? Yeah. So Laura, yeah, he does. Well, the thing is, when you watch these people on YouTube, they never give the background to where the flies come from. Okay, and they always imply that, oh, I've come up with this fly.
Didn't hear what you said, it's fine.
For genuine new flies, I haven't got an issue. But the buzzers, Dr. Bell used to fish Blagdon and Chew in 1920, and he was the one that came up with the chironomid buzzer. Okay, so all of this is down to him. Same as Sawyer's pheasant tail. Everything else, you know, we stand on the shoulders of giants, really. So all of these variations come from one thing. So let me get some buzzer stuff out. So now buzzers are another thing that we can complicate. We can, oh man, there are so many buzzers out there that it's really anybody know what FOMO is? FOMO, it's a modern term, fear of missing out. Right? So when you're there tying, or when you're there fishing, what do you catch that on? Buzzer. Oh, okay, you'll put a buzzer on. Not catching. Can I have a look at your buzzer? Ah. If you haven't got a buzzer like this, you're not going to catch. So then you've got to go and tie some of those buzzers. But I can tell you now, whether it's 6 or 10 foot deep, a buzzer looks like a buzzer regardless. Right? So I can see I'm going to be competing. Don't worry. Right? So the simplest buzzer that I know, I came across while I was fishing Lake Menteith up in Scotland. Okay, and these are tied on Camasan B175 size 10s. So I was in a boat with a Scotsman, and he was catching fish on buzzers, and I said, oh, what buzzer you got? He said, oh, none of your complicated crap, he said. I'm using this one called the Vicar. And I went, the Vicar? Why is it called the Vicar? So he gave me one, you'll see. Right? Originally they were tied with silver or gold. I like using holographic. So, doddle to tie. Right? I'm using 6/0 instead of 8/0. Right? Start behind the eye and take about 16 turns down. So it's under a third but over a quarter. Okay, and I come back up. And then back down, and then I continue all the way down in close touching turns if I can. So I've got this. If I rub my tie-ins up there, I can make sure that I get close touching turns. But so I'll go down and just over the bend. Just over the bend. And then continue back up. Until I'm just behind that part I made the thorax. So as I said, I like holographic silver. Take a slice of that. They're good, aren't they?
Wait till I do the head banging stuff.
You've been here before, John, it's not your first rodeo. So all we do then is take 2 turns of this, one over the other. There we go, there's 2 turns. Snip this off. Is that too long? Yeah, that is too long. Okay, and just build up the thorax, not too much because you've only got an impression. I think it was Richard Walker, really. He took 3 or 4 geometric shapes or mathematical shapes. So he took a triangle, took a semicircle, and he took 2 minus signs, and he sat there and said, look, what do these represent? And they said, nothing. We don't know where you're coming from. So he put the triangle there, put the semicircle in, he put the 2 slashes underneath. Now what's it look like? And everybody said, oh, it looks like a Chinaman in one of those straw hats. So what we're trying to do with the buzzer is get those key points into a place where the fish goes, that resembles a buzzer. Right? So nothing difficult about this pattern. And in fact, probably the most difficult part of this pattern is the use of some form of light cured resin. And that, I don't know whether you can see that in there.
Mm-hmm. So when you've got a buzzer, you tend to get a lot of people who right, you know, red cheeks. That is when he's about to hatch, I think, isn't it? But, so would you tend to fish a buzzer like that deeper?
Yes, because it's only the overall impression.
Yeah.
So, this is a progression I'm going to go through with these additions. So, early season now, you're talking April, May time. you might see 1 or 2 buzzers hatching, but the fish will still be feeding on them, but they'll be feeding on them deeper. So what you need is a fly that gets down to them. There's not many about, so the fish will look at this and go, yeah, that looks like a buzzer, it must be a buzzer, I'll take it. So you can fish 3 of these on a floating line if needs be. Just cast it out and just let them sink. Give it a pull, the buzzers will come up, fall back, because that's what they're going to be doing naturally in the water.
You don't normally get buzzers like right. Really, that's 10 feet deep, don't you?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but clywedog might be a different proposition because the exit of the bigger, you know, that's quite deep water there, where there's been loads of fish hatching.
Back to bed, right?
Yeah, right. There loads of fish there, and they're all taking tiny buzzers, aren't they?
I caught mine on buzzers, funny.
Yeah.
I tie a buzzer organza tape.
Right. Okay.
Because it sinks well.
Yeah.
It goes down to the stove.
Yeah.
Right. I tie it black, red, and black again, video style.
Right.
And I trim it thin. I put 2 white sheets on it.
Yeah.
And it works.
And this is a case in point. See, when the fly police tell you, the fish are the ones that will judge your flies, and if you're catching on them, who cares? It is a lot about confidence in the flies that you're using. So I'll just pass this one round, and you'll see how simple it is. Right? So
You've seen how it's been fishing last week? Ridiculous.
Yeah.
1450 fish to the boat.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And I mean, all those fish will.
And it all comes to small flies, to buzzers.
Yeah.
Most of them, and very small dries. And we're going to go, won't we, John? Tomorrow. It's gone off now. It's gone cold now.
Yeah. Well, they'll still be there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can tie that with a silver collar, a gold collar, or even put red with pearl over it, so you've got the traffic light buzzer.
That's right,
Okay, but it simple. So I mean, when people start to complicate it, all of a sudden it does get complicated. So I'm gonna tie a bit of a different one now. So it's still the same formula, 15 or 16 turns down. Okay,
So what base have you got on your hook then? You've got a base on there.
Oh right, here.
Yeah, that white.
Oh no, that's just the flash. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
The standard Kamasambi 175
Yeah.
hooks. So so all I'm going to do is create this foundation for the thorax. Okay, and then carry on down. And you'll see my flies are not perfect by any means. They're there to. They're easy to tie, quick to tie. I don't mind losing any. But this time I'm only going down just as far as just before the start of the bend, because all of a sudden now this is where we start complicating things. So as the season warms up, then you need your buzzers to start standing out from the crowd. So all I've done is I've got some glow bright floss. I've looped it or doubled it, and all I'll do is I'll take let's have a look. Sorry. Take 3 or 4 turns. So I'm putting it on a red butt. So 3 or 4 turns down, and then 3 or 4 turns up. It's a bit wasteful the way I'm doing it here. Usually I just do it with the tie-in silk, or tie it on as just a butt there, and then come back. back up. So once again, I'm not going to compete with that, right? You can listen to the music while I
They'll have rest in a minute.
I tie to the rhythm, look.
You don't notice it eventually.
They'll get tired soon. They have to have a rest.
They will. I made this joke before, but for your benefit, we were going to get a Welsh or Mouse choir. Now was choir. Has anyone got a concert for these days?
What's that, John?
Tiny Beckford.
What? Oh yeah, I wouldn't bother.
No. Does anyone go, do you know?
No.
Colin always tells me about Landexford. Colin Paul, he just says it's gone to the dogs.
Yeah, well,
They're just trying to put it straight more to course fishing, aren't they?
yeah, because it costs them money otherwise. And same with Brennig. Lisa Brand.
Finished.
Yeah, it's
They spent all that money on that new centre.
yeah, but it's more for visitors than it is anglers. Anglers are the problem apparently. But people have voted with their feet now. I mean, Chew was the place
Yeah.
for South Wales and Hereford and whatever, because it was quite close.
Yeah.
But with that ULEZ or whatever that zone is, you're either getting charged £12.50, or if you're late because you didn't get the notification, it rises correspondingly. So people are now travelling to either Wimbledon or Clywedog. I mean, Clywedog for me is 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Just because the A470 is the A470.
Yeah.
So, yeah, moving on, you can see that as the buzzers start to, you need something to get it stand out from the crowd. So that was the first one. Okay, and if you compared it with that one,
Globe Ride number 5.
yeah, Globe Right number 5.
I've got to get that in.
Yeah.
Got a joke, standing joke about Globe.
Oh yeah, Globe Right number 5. Yeah.
Because that a lot of people try to get it and can't, and I said, well, I'd call it the market.
Yeah, well, buy it by the box. If are you going to count with vineyards?
No.
very easy to get an account with Vineyard, especially if you're a fly tying club.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially now when they want to sell goods and lots of people are not spending money. So
Right.
I'll send you details to them.
I think the Guild will put it in the magazine, don't they? Vineyards. The Guild will put it in the magazine. Can't remember.
So you can see that. Yeah. So that's the big bond light. And the thing about those, you know, you said about your organza. Yeah, they sink quickly. Those sink even faster because they're through and they're down. So when you pull, they rise and they drop straight away. And there is on YouTube. You may wanna. It's called Bugs of the Underworld. Yeah, and there's an American that's done a series on stoneflies, sedges, mayfly, and chironomids.
Bugs of the Underworld.
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Okay.
Right, and then you can spread it around the thing. But you'll be able to see then how those behave, what they do in the water, and effectively, after the bloodworm stage and they pupate, initially what they do is they come out and they come up and then they drop back down. And they come up and drop back down until conditions are good, and then they wriggle all the way to the surface.
This is the film of the live.
Yeah. So when they swim into the surface, you will see why another fly I'm going to tie shortly works. Right. So sorry for labouring the point, but this is where we're going with this one. So as you've rightly said, you know, you tie it one particular way with the Dennis the Menace and what have you. Well, that's what anglers start to do then. They start to complicate things. And if I just do this one, so they start adding things that they see that they perceive will give them the edge. And when I say give them the edge, I mean if it's got this, if it's got that, if it looks more like the natural, then I'm in with a better chance than Joe Bloggs, who's only fishing a vicar. Well, I can tell you that the vicar is probably a #1 buzzer pattern for me. So especially on the likes of Llandegfydd. So once again, this time, as we're going to do, it says where is he? Okay. Now we can carry this on ad infinitum by just adding little bits like a little rib or a little, but in reality, I mean, all you need is a simple buzzer pattern with a little key point on it, and then something more realistic like this one. So strip peacock quills. You can spend as much time as you want pulling peacock quills apart. I regularly go to a fly dressing night for Ogmore Angling Association, and one of the guys there, he's into, I suppose you'd call him gadget man. But if there's a way of saving money or doing stuff, you know, if I want peacock quills, I go and buy strip peacock quills. not him, he's got a water bath. He melts paraffin wax until it's floating on the surface, liquid on the surface. So he's boiling this water, it's liquid paraffin wax. And then he gets specially purchased peacock eyes, and he drops them. Have you seen? There's a process where they can put camouflage on car bonnets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you know the one where they
Plastic.
float that film and then they dip it?
Plastic film it is.
Yeah. Well, that's what he does with his. So there's a surface of melted paraffin wax, and he goes, and then pulls it out. It dries on, and he scrapes the wax off, and then he's got. And I'm like, great. What are you doing about the mess? Or the wife can clean that up. You know what I mean? But he loves it. He really does. So, but anything like that, he loves. So, yeah, as I say, as things get more complicated, anglers have a tendency to add more and more. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tie this quill in on the side, and then go back up. And the thing when making quill buzzers is if they're dry, they snap. Right. So let's see if I can make this work. So what the quill is actually a rib. If you tie it in touching turns, then you'll find it very difficult to actually make it work. Sometimes it takes a hackle pliers to make it work. Get that. Right, nearly there. So for cheeks you can use goose biots or turkey biots in the larger sizes, right? So the turkey biots are a little bit longer and a little bit wider. But on the smaller sizes use the goose biots. Now, if you pull them off and keep the tips relatively balanced, I suppose, you can either tie them on individually, which I'll do now. You can tie them underneath to come over the top, or you can tie them in down the side. Choice is purely yours. You can add a wing case as well if you want, but this is where it starts getting complicated. And instead of a fly taking 2 or 3 minutes, all of a sudden it's taking 10 minutes and then 20 minutes. And so. Okay, so let me just snip. Put one on the side. Snip an equal amount off this side. And then make sure they're lined up, so hopefully you can see that they're both the same length. And then take them back as far as you want. Form the thorax. It doesn't need to be too big, because the natural isn't. And then one over the top, a couple of turns. This one over the top with a couple of turns. Couple in front, and then hopefully one of them has, both of them have. If you keep that under tension, you can usually pluck those off as opposed to cutting them. If you cut them, you usually get tags there, but this is absolutely fine now. A little bit of bug bond. I don't know whether you can see it in there. As it happens, these are fluorescent, so you will see the wing buds. So that's that done. I haven't got another one of those, but if you're going to fish a team of buzzers now, so May or April onwards, straight line buzzers, floating line, even casting out from the bank and letting the wind bring it round. You know, I put the darker, simpler one on the point, this one on the middle, and the one that's more realistic up on the top, right? So you've got these 3 buzzers drifting around that effectively are covering all the depths for you. And depending on where you take fish, you might think, oh, there's no buzzer hatch, and all of a sudden you take a fish on the point fly, and you think, oh great, point fly, middle dropper, and all of a sudden you'll start to see 1 or 2 rises, and then you start to take them on the top dropper. Okay, so as the buzzer hatch starts, the buzzers start coming off the bottom, fish are taking them there, they're rising in the water column, then they're rising in the water column, and then you can see the fish rising. Okay, so once again, these combinations, if you can imagine, we've got a fab or a booby on the point. On the washing line, you can have 2 buzzers up the line and just let that drift around. Or if you're fishing off the boat, just leave it static, it'll be in the water column, depending on where the fish are feeding, whether it's 10 foot down, 5 foot down, choose the appropriate line, and those flies will be stationary in that column, and the fish will just swim past them like basking sharks and just nice solid takes. Alright? So far we've got 2 combinations. First, fab and 2 buzzers, or a booby, 2 buzzers and a fab. Depends on the combinations you want. Okay, on those waters where and I'll pass this one around now, where you're only allowed to fish 1 fly, well, you've got 1 fly, and if you've got an indicator, then the indicator sits up there and the buzzer's hanging underneath. On those waters where you're allowed to fish more than 1 fly, you've got the indicator plus 2 or 3 flies, especially in the summer when it's flat calm. Right, and just let it drift around, watch your indicator and take those fish. Right, do you want a break?
Yeah.
Right, let's have a break. I'll pass this one around as well. So,
all your buzzers black.
no. So, jowl barks or dry flies? Jowl bark, right? Okay. So, once again, this continues on. So, and this is probably my go-to setup for the summer, or any time I hit the water. Right? Fast glass, a booby on the point, and 2 jowl barks up the line. Whether I'm off the bank or off the boat, that's what I'll fish. That's what we fished when we went to Chew. I don't know, it just pulls them in, and if they don't like the booby, they'll go up the line and grab the jowl barks. So there's 2 that I use in particular, one early season and one throughout the season. Sometimes I fish 2 of the same on the same cast because they just work. Right?
This time of year as well?
Yeah, I'll fish a black one this time of year. And the only thing that changes for me really is I'll fish size 10s all throughout the year. If the fish are finicky or there's something happening, I might go smaller. And that is equally applicable to a booby. So instead of tying a booby on a size 10, I'll tie it on a size 12. Because all of a sudden, those big flies, the fish know that those flies bite back. But something smaller, instead of it being up in the surface or creating a lot of turbulence, it's somewhat smaller, and it is different. And I think in a recent competition on Rutland, there's a guy, Alun Dixon, I think his name is. His team won. Everybody were pulling standard wet flies on size 10s. They went down to size 12s and 14s, and instead of the fish following the flies, the fish were taking the flies. All right. So let me get this these couple of jowl barks done. Okay.
Is it still a Chironomy imitation?
Yeah, and in particular, it's more of a you could call it a pulling buzzer,
Okay.
right? So you can fish a jowl bar static, figure of 8, really slow, or you can strip it even. Whereas you'll notice I've tied all those buzzers on straight hooks or straight shank hooks instead of curved shank. Because what I find sometimes with the curved shank, they twist and then they twist my leader as well. Personal thing. So I generally tie them on straight shank hooks. But yeah, jowl bar, everything and anything. Really, small shrimp, good for mullet as well. I haven't got a sea trout in the jowl bar, but I've got mullet on it. Rainbows like them, browns like them, and in particular, these two. Okay, so I'll try a different one first. Okay. Sorry about the mess. So the first one I'm going to tie is the black jowl bar. So have you tied them with the organza?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've been sort of experimenting with organza. You can do a lot with it, can't you?
yeah, and as long as you're good with the scissors, you can get a good taper.
Yeah.
Right. And
I tie a red one, just use it as a blood run.
yeah. Well, there you go. Now, although you might not think this is jowl bar, once again, early season, even in winter. What have I done with that? Okay, not that one, because I can't find it. No. So, early season, this is the jowl bar shellfish, or one of the jowl bar shellfish. Okay, so it's just a variation on the original, and in reality, it sits with. I don't know about you guys, but when I tie my flies, I don't like them to be overdressed. Like, I know some people tie their flies how they have their dinners, you know, and you know how they have their dinners because they got bellies like this, right? Bellies like this, so they got this fly. Whoa, if I was a fish, I'd have that fly because look at the size in it. But in nature, everything has a certain size. You know. You never see fat lions. They're always just the right size. Or you never see fat wildebeest. They're always just right. Nature always finds a balance. They're always healthy and always size. And insects are the same. You never see, like, apart from a bumblebee who's got small wings and a big fat body. But every insect is of a certain size, you know. And I like to tie my flies accordingly, and I'll only use the adornments like the red tag or what have you to facilitate that point really. So the first one is a black with a pearl rib, and what I'm actually looking for, and I hope I did. So I'm just going to take a strand of pearl, tie down, and there's my... So this is peacock herl dyed black, not that one. So I only take one strand, pull the tip off and tie it in by the tip, because if you look at it, when you tie it in by the tip, all the herl tends to stand out, whereas if you tie it in by the butt, all the herl will flatten down. Okay, so tie it in by the tip and just all the way up. Even though it looks bulky, all it is like wrapping a hackle, and I'll show you shortly. So that one strand, I've taken all the way up to the headlock. So I don't know whether you can see it in there. Yeah. Even though it looks pushy, actually in the water that will fine down. Okay, so twill rib, about 5 or 6 turns, just tie it off there. No, I got them, yeah. So what I've started using a lot of as well is plastic jungle cock. Okay.
Alright.
So you can...
Is that vineyards?
Yeah, vineyards. So plastic jungle cock, relatively cheap. Let me put the hackle in, the beard hackle first. And
so have they improved those then?
They have to a certain extent. I use them more for size.
Oh.
Sometimes there's another company, I can't think who they are, they print them on black card. So the one thing that I do with the vineyards is I get a black marker pen and I colour the back. So then that white doesn't affect the fly. But of course, I haven't got a black marker pen with me because I didn't bring one. So take one and then they've got a little tag on them that you can use to position and tie in. And you can then fold that back to secure them. But you can see on the back of these they're white. Okay, but if you get a black marker you can take that black marker back. Now you don't necessarily have to have this jungle cock, but I suppose once again for people it's a confidence thing, right? In jungle cock everybody says it's got natural phosphorescence and it doesn't use shiny UV light on it, it looks no different. Okay, so sometimes it's an affectation and sometimes, as I say, it's a confidence thing. So didn't do too well on those, but we'll see. So the head on that one isn't too good, but I'll just finish that up. Essentially, two of those with the black booby, or a blob, or a fab, especially to fish the washing line. So a booby with two of these up the line works wonders. Okay, so that's a black version, right? But my other go-to Jalbach is a natural one with a red rib, but I use fire orange tie-in silk. Okay, so what this, coming back to your red buzzer and different colour buzzers, this is the only other colour I suppose I use, but it doesn't mean anything that you want to use is wrong. You know, effectively the fish will tell you what the story is. Okay, so fire orange is a tie-in silk, and take that down just about there. You can't get good red game now. You can get lots of furnace, but you can't get good red game. So there's a variation as well that some people like to use golden pheasant crest. No, not golden pheasant crest, but the red breast feathers.
Yeah.
Right, but you can't get golden pheasant now because of the embargo with China. Likewise, peacock herl. Peacock have gone on to the CITES list, so they're effectively protected now. Unless you've got license, they can't export from China, from India.
Well, I went to India and they wouldn't let you put it through customs, and that's quite a while ago. Yeah.
They wouldn't let it through customs.
You could buy like these peacock fans. I thought, oh, I'll check them in that for flight away. Sorry, can't have that.
Yeah.
And they were as cheap as chips.
So, I mean, all of those things that we take for granted as tyres, they're slowly but surely being replaced by synthetics. Okay, so what I'm tying in is a rib of holographic red here now. So I'll take 2 turns, and then I don't know whether you can see it in there. Oh, sorry, there we go. It looks as if it's pink.
Yeah.
Right. All I did years ago was buy a load of peacock feathers, stick them in a vase, put them on the windowsill, and the sun turns them bronze. So instead of green, it's bronze, but it works well with green as well. So once again, all I do is I take one, pull off, just to get a more secure thing. Tie everything in just to try and keep the body flat. Yeah. And it doesn't matter really if there's gaps in this because the red underbody will shine through. Okay. Four or five turns of this. Just tie a couple of fibres underneath. Take those off. Now this one works well with jungle cock, it works well with goose bayots, it works well without goose bayots or jungle cock. So once again, while I'm here, I'll just show these, the best of it.
Yes, mate, yeah. It's just one extreme from the other. Try to look at Wiggins and hold the metal. Now I'm working in this back. Socks and clothes.
There you go.
Yeah, I've got one now still.
Just finish this. So if I was asked to fish one fly all season, this one would be it. Right? So from about May, June onwards, May I'd say, I've always got a fast glass on, a booby on the point, doesn't matter what colour it is, two of these. And unless the fish are feeding on the top, I'm catching fish. So,
Call it a day.
yeah, well, I think I had great ambitions, right? I'll come up again, and I'll continue. With the flies that I've done tonight, it'll be a good start to an all-season box. When I come up next time, we'll tie a couple of boobies, cormorants, and a few dries. And if you've got a selection of all of those in your box, you can go anywhere and catch fish. Because all the flies I've tied tonight, what I've got in my box, and I go and I catch fish.
The trouble is, like myself and many other dogs, you've got that many flies in that box, you're not the hell to put on here.
Well, and that's why I give you maybe combinations.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do, yeah.
Right, two boobies, or two blobs start of the season pulling, and then as the season progresses, you can have blob
Basically,
or
I know
fat.
most places I fish, more or less what to put on.
Yeah,
But sometimes when you're struggling, you're thinking, there's blokes out in a boat, and you're on the back net raking. You're thinking,
what is he doing?
what is he doing?
Yeah, and sometimes if I fish clywedog, particularly off the bank, I'll go all the way up to the bigger. I'll have a cast, and I'll walk down the bank, and have a cast, and walk down the bank, and have a cast, walk down the bank.
Yeah.
And I'll cover water until I go,
Find a fish,
oh, there's a
yeah.
fish.
Yeah.
And when there's one, there's usually another.
There's no good for that.
And then occasionally, like in a small still water, when they're being fed or they're in a let's see, when they're in a stew pond,
Yeah,
the fish tend to go one way
yeah.
or the other.
That's right.
When they stock them, they'll find a bank and they'll
Yeah.
run the bank until they come back round.
And they do that correct, don't they? When they stop that boat,
Yeah,
you'll see they head for the back, don't they? Because they're looking for the edges of the net.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And even on a small still water, you'll see a fish go, oh, where's he gone? Where's he gone? He'll be back round because he's swimming around and around. I mean, on these small still waters like Abington and Diva Springs and places like that, you crystal clear, they're fed by chalk streams and what have you, and you'll watch a fish go round. Plonk your fly in. Oh, here he comes. Jump. And it's as often as easy. I'm not saying it's like as easy as that all the time, but once again you're creating a reaction in fish. But it's simple, but it's not easy. It's a bit of a paradox phrase, that, isn't it?
I suppose like Clywedog, when they're circulating, you've got 1,000 fish going by you, then nothing, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
You've got to be patient there.
And the only place where they regularly are, and you know, even I've been there, there's nothing around the cages. It seems to draw fish in from hundreds of yards. Really does. And I think what sustains it is that 1,000 fish every week.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's the natural food in there, whereas there is in some place like Chew or Blagdon. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever been to Blagdon when the damselflies are hatching. They're on your hat, they're on your rod, they're on your line as you're pulling it in.
The same as a coffee pot, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. The cork and the cow dung fly, you know.
Yeah, you get that at Clywedog, a lot of cow dung. But I've noticed this year, in particular, there's been, well, any flies, very few flies.
Yeah.
About anyway.
Mm.
You know, in your garden and everywhere else. They're not there, are they?
Well,
remember you used to get your car windscreens, used to
Yeah.
absolutely, but no flies.
no. And they,
Whether it's the weather or what this year or what.
no, I think it's pesticides and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Although the first time, you know, the Gwent Angling Society open day, they cut the grass. The following morning, there were blackbirds and thrushes everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, what the hell are they doing? Oh, what was that? Cocabondi. First time I've seen them down there in ever, really. And people were giving it, what's happening with the birds? And I went, Cocabondi.
But there was a big hatch apparently at Clywedog this year,
Yeah.
which I missed.
So does everybody, I think. It should have been, well, it's typical whenever you go, even if you go to Scotland, you should have been here last week, or we do for it next week. It is.
I went to England once, I guys fish there quite a lot, so I don't live that far. And among all the stones on the bank, you could scoop cocky bond about like that. You try and catch fish because they were absolutely good. I did catch a couple,
Yeah.
I felt it was like it was full of gravel.
Yeah.
It was very difficult.
Often, there was a fly years ago called the peach doll.
Oh yeah, I know the one.
Do you remember the peach
Yeah.
doll? Yeah, or,
Baby doll.
even the baby doll, but tied with peach.
Peach, yeah.
Right, peach
Peach
wool.
wool, wasn't it? That's
Yeah.
what it was.
I tell you, in a buzzer hatch, if you couldn't get a fish to take peach doll, whoop, here we go. Didn't matter. Just take their mind off it straight away.
Right, well, thanks, Alun. Appreciate that. Can you give your appreciation?
I don't think I did it justice because I forgot stuff and what have you. But,
Good.
all right, but it's all about combinations.
And your knowledge